the red flag flying here.
And welcome to Political Unmuted. It is so good to see you. We're getting very excited because things are beginning to fall into, can you see they're beginning to fall into place? We've got another old friend with us today. Kelly, it is so lovely to see you.
Hi everyone, it's really, really good to be here. I'm over the moon.
Thank you, thank you. Tell us basically a little about yourself for people who might not know you, as a sort of that, just introduce yourself.
I'm still currently an English teacher, but only until August the 31st of this year because I've just been made redundant. But I'm fine with that, I'm okay with that. I'm also a trade unionist. I've worked with the NASUWT for the last 5 years as a caseworker and negotiating secretary over in South Tyneside. That's about it, really.
Nothing more to say. You must keep us in touch as you go job hunting and see what the next stage of your life is going to do. You must come back onto the show and tell us all about it.
Fingers crossed, eh?
Yeah, super. It's just so good to see you. And we're hoping for some very outspoken and firebrand stuff because that's what we like on here. The rest of the team, I'm just growing so fond of you. Thank you so much for your faithfulness and sense to, and you're just fantastic. Paul Daly, Stuart Sutherland, Samantha Townsend, you're just great. Thank you. Right, okay, and it's time for Daly that's done all this, you know. Paul Daly's just he's taking part and and all these things he's done them all and he's running all the electronics behind that. There's multitasking, which, ladies, you will agree is an amazing thing for a man to do.
Careful
let's
now.
start with our guest, Kelly. Moment of the week.
My moment of the week actually happened today. The whole Boris Johnson and the obesity thing, and now all of a sudden he's wanting to fight against obesity, blah blah blah. I'm talking from the perspective of not only a fat girl but someone who's bothered by that. Just today I had to take my mother-in-law for a hospital appointment. It was a routine hospital appointment. So she's a lovely lady, but never speaks to politics. She never takes any notice of what's going on in the news and stuff like that. It just goes over her head. She's not bothered. And we're in the car and she just turned and said, "Have you heard that Johnson?" I said, "Well, what's he said now?" You know what I mean? This could be anything. She says, "Well, he was on about fat people and saying how fat people are getting the corona and they're all dying and the NHS is going to fall apart because of it. He's blaming fat people now." And I've kind of looked over, I'm driving along. At what point is he just going to take some blame for himself because he's the one that's made all the stupid decisions? Now he's blaming anyone but himself. And I just thought, that's my moment of the week. Someone who I've known for 25 years who's never spoke politics ever in her life. And that's the one thing she picked up. And I thought, but the whole point of that was, he's never taken responsibility for any of the decisions he's made, ever. And I just kind of looked and I went, well, yeah, that's the way it is. He doesn't take responsibility. He will try and pin the blame on literally everyone. He's even picking on chubby old me now. But, you know.
I think the thing is that the government has been excellent for a decade at shifting the blame onto various people. So if people are beginning to find out, I'm not sorry about that. Stuart, moment of the week.
My moment of the week is Spain. Both Grant Shapps and Tommy Robinson are stuck in Spain. They can't get back. I don't know, are we lucky or Spain unlucky in that situation? And I think Tommy Robinson's planning to move to Spain.
Well, I heard that what it was that he's claiming asylum there under EU residence laws because
he's a refugee. He's a refugee.
He's gone as a refugee. This is now whether it's true or not, but this was what it was saying, and that the person who was saying this because they set fire to his house, didn't they? So he's saying he doesn't feel safe in the UK anymore, so he wants to go and live in Spain. And somebody was saying, well, I hope they're as kind to him as he has been to all those people who've been seeking refuge in Britain, under our asylum laws.
We can only hope.
But doesn't it just sum up this government that they passed this rule and there are ministers out there having a holiday? It's just, you couldn't make it up, could you?
Just an excuse to stay out longer.
Do you think so?
I always like to say when they say,
they'll still have a spotlight to do. Sam, moment of the week.
I just unmute myself because there is a story happening upstairs, as usual. Yeah, gosh, I'm not going for a political one. I'm just going with the fact that I've got a desk. And this is my moment of the week, because we're going to talk later on about women having to juggle everything and being expected to do everything. And I have been kidding myself for 4 months that I could just balance my laptop on my knee and it'll be fine. And honest, I've just moved 5 meters across the room onto a desk that we've shuffled things around, and it's like a whole new world. I can actually get some work done. I'm so happy. So yeah, anybody who's thinking about shuffling things around to make some room for the new normal, I think that was the problem. That was the impediment. I didn't want to do anything that looked permanent as a response to the pandemic, because it was too serious. But yeah, we've reorganized the house and we've thought practically about how, if things do progress, how we're going to fit in a computer for the kids and sort of section off the house so it can actually work during the day if it needs to. Hopefully that's not going to happen, because all the kids are going to go back to school in September. I'm sure we all believe that's going to happen. So yeah, just really moving furniture around. That's how eventful my week has been.
I mean, Barbara and I did this in as much as we made a change in our life, and we sort of fought against it because it involved admitting a weakness that we were growing older, and there's a sort of, I can cope. I'm not going to admit I can't cope, but when we made that change, my golly, the difference it makes in your life, and you're right as well. There's a desire to get out of COVID and back to normal, and you've been putting things off, and you sort of, sometimes you just got to say, no, it's got to be done. So I'm delighted. That makes your life easier, because we see your life on Facebook and it's a hell of a lot.
It is very busy.
Chicken rustling this week.
Chicken rustling. Yes.
Chasing chicken.
So I have an ongoing problem where my neighbour's chickens like hopping into my allotment because I've got raspberries. Chickens really like raspberries. They also really like watermelon and peppers. So raspberries is what's enticing them over. So we thought we'd sorted it. We thought we'd fixed the fence. He thought he'd clip the wings of the offenders. Clipping wings is not cruel, by the way. It's just like a haircut. And then yesterday, she's back. And I love her. And I think she loves me too. That's the thing. She's not hopping over the raspberries. She wants to be in my flock.
Didn't he lose them all out of his, didn't he lose the entire lot?
So I was like, chicken, you're back. And then I looked up and saw that his entire chicken shed was open and the doors never open. And his little chicken door was shut. So he'd obviously put them all to bed. And I'm like, oh God, now what? This is a gentleman in his sort of 80s, probably. He won't be watching this. So I don't have any contact for him. I just know him as that guy.
This poor guy is 52. Just insulted him on international Zoom.
So, anyway, but yeah, so I just had to randomly message everybody who I thought might be tangentially related to him, because all I knew about him was that he used to work at the Shildon Works. So I'm messaging all my friends who've got any connection to the wagon works at Shildon. So, do you know this guy? But I made it in the end. I found his granddaughter, hopefully.
Thank you so much. Your life is a joy. One day we'll have a program devoted to your life.
Oh God!
Moment of the week, Paul.
I could have gone for a few different things here, because Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who's behind me, has been absolutely on form this week, but that's not it. There's also been a little bit of controversy on the Labour Party page this week, because we asked if anyone's been hidden by Howell. But that is not also, we've ended up getting trolls, which is really fun. But I'm not going to do that one. The big story for me is changes to this show, and it is related to Bono, who is our massive celebrity fan. Because
he is.
because he clearly is.
And he listens so carefully, doesn't he, Paul? He listens really carefully.
So the story behind this is last week I uploaded the last week's show to YouTube, at which point YouTube put in a copyright claim against the show because of the other stories jingle that we have. So because that had a Sunday Bloody Sunday in, YouTube put in a copyright claim and tried to monetize Political Unmuted. We only had 9 views at the time. It's not really, it's a pretty stupid story. But what happens is they send out these, they basically have a company that will be putting out bots that will check for copyright infringements. And it just shows how difficult it is for people because there were 10 seconds, well, it was actually 2 seconds, but they said 10 of Sunday Bloody Sunday in there. They wanted to claim that they owned this show. So instead we muted that bit and we've got a new jingle. So that's how
Which we're going to listen to.
We will listen to later. Not yet. We'll save that one. Get yourself
we
all
will.
for that one.
But anybody listening now, just hang on there because it's worth listening to. And I have to tell you, the drumming is absolutely spot on, out of this world. And
that links as well to the other change where we're gonna, if people want to put in listener questions today, we could hang around for a little bit if people wanted to come on the show later. After 10 o'clock, after No Passaran, that is a possibility for you. So if you wanted to join the show yourself after 10 for political extra time, then please do so. And one final, I'm really sorry for going on, but one final shout out to the Children in Nature in Wingate, who are bidding for Persimmon Homes, £100,000 for Persimmon Homes, and it'd be really good for my village if people would vote for them. And you can go on and vote every day. So I don't know if someone will be kind enough to put that in the feed below the Socialist Think Tank one. Again, questions go in. Make sure you point out that it is a question, and on the comments below this video on Socialist Think Tank, make sure that you put your question in there, and you will be sent a link via Messenger to come and join us on the screen.
Yes, it's very exciting. We have a guest question, a listener guest question in the middle of the show, but after the show, sort of make it clear that you want to come on and join us and be on screen with us, and we'll see if we can get you onto the show. Thank you, Paul. That's actually what you've done for the show is fantastic. But now
it's time for the big story.
Now, the big story, and I hope that listeners will appreciate this. It's a very difficult subject for us to discuss, and one that we find personally very distressing, all of us. But I'm going to start with Paul. Whose settlement has unsettled the Labour Party?
Okay, so I'll go from the beginning on this one, and I'll just set out some facts of this case without trying to put too much opinion in there. And before I do that, I just want to mention as well that the grime artist Wiley this week has demonstrated with his horrendous Twitter rants, horrendous anti-Semitic Twitter rants, that anti-Semitism is very real, sadly very prevalent, and it needs to be wiped out. It is absolutely evil. So I just wanted to make sure that we all understand that, and I'm sure everyone on this show thinks the same. So in 2019, the Equality and Human Rights Commission, after complaints from the Jewish Labour Movement and the Board of Jewish Deputies, started to put an investigation into the Labour Party about whether it was institutionally anti-Semitic, so whether the inner workings of the Labour Party were anti-Semitic. Some people disputed this at the time. some Jewish groups did. Jewish Voice for Labour and certain Orthodox Jewish groups did dispute that at the time. Following this, the BBC made a documentary, Is Labour Anti-Semitic, with John Ware. John Ware had a little bit of a history with the Labour Party. David Blunkett in the past has, I believe, accused him of bias. People included for their opinion were considered to be whistleblowers. Some of them, or I'm not sure how many of them, had signed non-disclosure agreements with the Labour Party to not speak about the Labour Party, but they broke those non-disclosure agreements. And this included people, prevalent names were the former General Secretary, Ian McNicol, who was in charge of the inner workings of the Labour Party, the institutions of the Labour Party, and Sam Matthews, who was in charge of complaints. And they said that all the problems were coming from the leader's office. All the interference was coming from the leader's office, and that was stopping them doing the job properly. The BBC said that they gave Labour the full right of reply to this, but there's a really good article on Novara Media where Justin Schlossberg, who is a prominent academic who's very very skilled and very knowledgeable in media and the law around media. He's written an article about how the BBC omitted key points to make it seem like the Labour Party weren't necessarily addressing all these actions, and they weren't mentioning the fact, certain facts that, you know, would probably have looked a little bit better for the Labour Party in that. And there was some complaints that there were no counter arguments put on there. All of these people thought that the Labour Party were anti-Semitic, and the BBC, by their own editorial standards, were supposed to provide more balance than that, according to Justin Schlossberg. So the whistleblowers and John, following that, the Labour Party complained and said that it was disaffected former workers, and the BBC documentary lacked balance. So John Ware and the whistleblowers took the Labour Party to court for defamation. So Labour then went on and had the general election. They lost the general election, and the Labour Party got a new leader, Keir Starmer. And this week, following that, the leaked Labour report came out that was supposed to be submitted to the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which backed up a lot of what the Labour Party had said, allegedly, about the BBC documentary and the balance in that. And the Labour Party, under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, they believed that the advice was that they had a very good chance of winning this case, and not being shown to have been defamatory. But Keir Starmer this week has decided that it would be best for the Labour Party to settle with these people, and not only settle with them, but also so he's paid out these people, and has also made a very, very positive statement about those people being exemplary employees, basically. So that is where we are. Jeremy Corbyn then released a statement saying he sort of stood by his previous assertion, and then following that, John Ware then said he was going to sue Jeremy Corbyn, and ordinary people have raised £300,000 for the defence of Jeremy Corbyn, because litigation can be very, very, very expensive. And that's where we are.
Thank you, Paul, for that factual account and and a real attempt, I thought, to put both sides of the story. Thank you very much indeed. Sam, so Judgment of Solomon time. Starmer made a dreadful mistake, or was this a necessary accommodation, do you think?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. And did you hear that politician answer? Did I do that right? I'm laughing because I'm nervous. This is obviously something that causes us all distress. As you said at the beginning, it's clearly a mess. You listen to that list of events from start to finish, and you do think, gosh, we need to sort this out. And one thing that people have to recognise is that all three of the Labour leadership candidates promised to do this as part of their election. They all said they were going to settle with these people as part of their election programme. All right, so using it as a, oh, Keir Starmer's doing this and it's about his politics, you know, you're backing down the wrong tree, you're backing up the wrong tree, because they were all going to do it, even Rebecca Long Bailey, okay? And if she didn't do it, she was backtracking on something she was elected on, which is obviously wrong. There's a sticking point for me, what hurts me is whoever's fault it is, whether it's Jeremy Corbyn's fault or Keir Starmer's fault, for some reason, we've had to pay out allegedly, it's reported around £600,000, and that's £600,000 of members' money. You know, I am an unwaged. I don't have a proper job, so I only pay something like £3 a month as part of my Labour Party membership. But you know, I can't afford to pay any more. Some people pay more. Some people voluntarily pay more. And when you are, like, I'm vice chair of Bishop Auckland constituency, obviously Paul is chair of Sedgefield constituency, and you know how much we really are scraping around for money to run our to pay for rooms to run our meetings, which is, you know, just to give our members the basic right to political assembly. It does upset me that money has had to be paid out, whether, like I said, obviously some people say it's Jeremy Corbyn's fault that we had to pay that money out because he did wrong, and some people are saying it's Keir Starmer's fault we've paid that money out because he settled. Whoever's fault it is, it's the Labour Party's fault. We have done something and we have paid out a massive sum of money that really we needed for our elections. We needed it for our training, which we obviously desperately need on this issue, and everything else that we need money for in the Labour Party. So that it is painful to know that much money's had to be paid out.
Sam, you're talking about the money side of things. I mean, where do you stand on the principle side of things? I mean, the argument here is that to some people in the party, they're saying, as Paul indeed alluded to when he gave us his excellent factual account, that we could have won if we'd have fought it. It's in fact, the Labour Party had not done wrong, and the case could have been won. Now, remember, that's speculation, by the way. You know, and what Starmer has done is he's backed down in the face of unfair accusation. And actually, not about anti-Semitism, unfair accusation about, they say, unfair accusation about defamation.
Yeah, so
whereas other people are saying that he did absolutely the right thing, that what we need to do is we need to settle as quickly as possible and move on as quickly as possible. And for God's sake, let's just get this put to one side and move on. I mean, where do you stand on the principle of the issue?
So I don't know whether you guys know, but my degree is in philosophy, and the first thing you learn when you do any study of philosophy is that you know absolutely nothing. And I certainly don't know what happened in Labour headquarters down south. I certainly don't know what Jeremy Corbyn thinks in the back of his head. All I can work on is the information presented to me through my senses, and that's got to go through the media, and it's got to go through my friends telling me things. There's so many things in between me and knowing what the objective truth is. So I do not know. But what I do know is when we're talking about people who are marginalised, whether it's because they're Jewish or because they're black or women or, you know, disabled, all the time that we spend debating these things causes actual harm. So we have to weigh that up against winning the fight that could take years. It could take years to get this through the court. And in the meantime, we've got people who are able to say the Labour Party doesn't care about you, and perpetuate this, whether it's right or wrong, this narrative that we are institutionally anti-Semitic. So there's a lot of things to weigh up. And in the comments has said, is paying out an admission of guilt? That some people might think that way. I mean, if you are the claimant and you believe that you will win, you may, if you are certain that you're going to win, you can reject a payout, can't you, and go for the big money when you win. So paying out is not necessarily an admission of guilt. It's a way to get out of this situation as quickly as possible. Like I said, all three Labour Party leaders said they were going to do.
Thank you. Kelly, you're in real darkness there. Is this because you don't want to be asked what you think? What's your take on all this, Kelly?
Well, I mean, firstly, I will always condemn any anti-Semitism completely. It's abhorrent. It's absolutely disgusting. But the thing is, in this particular issue, in this particular party, I think it's bizarre in that I'm not willing to say anything about the issue. There we go. But think about the reasons why I'm not willing to say anything about the issue. I'm not willing to because I'm not going to say afraid, because I'm certainly not afraid of anything. I'm not scared. But I'm anxious that this might harm my party membership if I was to have an opinion on it and maybe taken the wrong way. So I'm going to choose to stay pretty much silent on the issue. I really am. However, I think that brings up a further issue, which is why are Labour Party members such as me too afraid or anxious to discuss something that is clearly an issue? And it will continue to be an issue until such point that we actually feel comfortable discussing it. I don't feel comfortable discussing it because of that. It's like a catch-22 thing. Do you see what I mean?
I absolutely understand, and thank you for making that point, which is absolutely crucial. And listeners need to understand that there's an easy sort of just there is, before I come to you, Stuart, please forgive me. But something happened the other day on Twitter, and somebody had written about the whistleblowers who brought the defamation case, taking their 30 pieces of silver. Now, this was somebody who disagreed with them, and was 30 pieces of silver is a common saying for somebody who's taken money for betrayal. And it's in the Bible, and it comes from Judas, who got 30 pieces of silver for betraying Jesus in the Christian Gospels. He was immediately accused of an anti-Semitic trope. And here's the thing, a well-known anti-Semitic trope, because quoting that quote from the Bible, in fact, played, in the words of the tweet, to an anti-Semitic stereotyping of Jewish people as one, money conscious, and two, treacherous. And sort of now, I come from a generation where that quoting from the Bible in that way is just comes as second nature. And I have to say that until that list of tweets happened, it had never occurred to me that talking about taking your 30 pieces of silver was an anti-Semitic trope. Now, so I've learned, I will never mention that again. And sort of so, but for many of us in the Labour Party, there's a process going on, and sort of we're learning that anti-Semitism just isn't about denying the Holocaust and putting swastikas, spray painting swastikas on synagogues, on blatant anti-Semitism like that. It's about trying to learn to live in a way which does not continually insult and stigmatize the people living in our society. And we're having to learn a whole new language. And you're absolutely correct. We need to be very, very careful, and sort of, it is worrying that you might say unknowingly something that gets you into trouble because you've used an anti-Semitic trope that you were just not aware of at the time. And the result is that we don't get to discuss it. One of the things I get cross about is the lack of political education that's going on. Because we're so scared to mention it as a party, nobody's ever finding out about these things. Nobody's coming to us and saying, this is the new language, you must be careful what you say. I'm going to come to Stuart and then come back to Paul, and then we'll knock this on the head. Stuart?
Well, let's see, where do we start? First of all, I need to make everyone aware that anti-Semitism is wrong, isn't it? You know, it's disgusting and vile. And while I'm deeply not qualified to discuss anti-Semitism from, you know, the perspective of the people who it's damaging, I am able to speak about the circumstances going on as a member, and I feel very disconnected from how we've got to this payout, to the settlement. I understand it's not as much to rebuild the reputation as an anti-racist party, but you know, build the relationship back with the Jewish community, and that's a positive in itself. But I do feel very disconnected from how we got to that position.
Yes. Yes, it was taken for us, wasn't it? Thank you so much. Paul, very briefly, how much nearer do you think the Labour Party is of ridding itself of this reputation? And then if you could just draw the discussion to a close, it would be really kind.
Sadly, I don't think we're any closer at all. I think this will continue to bug the party until we can have a good, honest discussion about it. Before, when I did indicate that I could come in, was because I wanted to make it clear that there are resources on the Labour Party website about anti-Semitism that do talk about these tropes. So I did know about that 30 pieces of silver trope, because as well you can link that in with a lot of people. A lot of Christians apparently say the Jews are responsible for the death of Jesus, and that's been a long-running trope. But there are also the tropes that I see all the time that I've learned about, that, you know, that Jewish people are all the same and they will all have like the same mind, which is total nonsense. Jewish people are as diverse of opinion as any other group, and we can see that with certain Jewish people, such as James Schneider, who worked in in Jeremy Corbyn's office. Had put a long thing on Twitter about how disappointed he was that Sam Matthews had said that the leader of the opposition were getting in the way of what they were doing, because he was chasing Sam Matthews, and he accused Sam Matthews of sitting on his hands. And you know, I don't understand why we're not backing a Jewish person who is saying this. Why are we selectively listening to certain people and not others? You know, I think, as I say, Jewish people are as diverse of opinion as any other group. So I don't know why people think that it's okay to assume that all Jewish people think alike on this particular issue. And
also what I will point is the fact that I'm not Jewish, I'm not aware of any of our 5 discussers being a Jewish person.
No.
And at the end of the day, as Sam said, it's very difficult for any of us to know what's going on here. Thank you, everybody, for your wise words. I think that was very caring and careful, and we continue to learn. Paul, can you make sure that we post the link to those materials on the comments page, so that anybody listening to the show and thinking, my God, I didn't know that existed, can go and have a look at them. Has somebody asked to join us? Simon Hocking?
Yeah, we've got someone. Is this time for the new jingle?
It's time for the listener guest. It's time for the listener guest. Simon, hi. Oh, you're connecting to audio. Hi there.
How's it going?
Oh, we can hear you. Welcome to the show. Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Were you impressed by the drumming? There's only one answer to this.
Always impressed.
This is, for listeners, this is something we're trying out, and what we're doing is invited a listener guest to come and put their question. Simon's going to ask his question, and then I'm going to take back chairing, and I'll ask various people what they think. But Simon, feel free to interrupt. Simon, the rule is this: is that if you want to interrupt somebody, you just show your fingers above the bottom of the frame.
No
like
problem.
that. And sort of, they will then yield to you, but you've got to do the same back to them.
No problem.
So that, and particularly to me. Simon, let's listen to what your question is.
So, Annalise Dodds released an article in the Times behind a paywall, which I wasn't a fan of, but that's by the by. Her statement from it was, putting up taxes would not be sensible. We must go for growth. Now, is that what we should aim for post-COVID?
Thank you for that question. Kelly, you get away with not answering the last one. You got no such mercy this time. We have the shadow chancellor of the Labour Party saying it's wrong to put up taxes. What we need to go is we need to go for growth instead. We need payback from growth, not from taxes. Comments?
Well, it depends on who on earth it is she wants to tax, or who on earth it is she doesn't want to tax. I think is more to the point, because I think we all know that there are many very, very rich people in the country that possibly don't pay enough tax. This is my opinion, by the way, but I'd like to think that it was shared by some. There are some that don't pay any at all. So I think perhaps what she should have said is that it's time that taxation was a little bit fairer and done in a better manner. That's what I personally think. I think she got it wrong. There we go. Because yes, some of us should be paying more tax. Some of us definitely should be paying more tax. Some of us should be paying less.
Stuart.
Oh, see, I find the statement of, taxes over growth or vice versa is a bit of at odds, because I can see a methodology in taxing in the right places to get growth in the right places. And I'm sure, the top 5% that we would like to tax from the last manifesto, that money could be really well spent right now and facilitate the kind of growth we need in a post-COVID world.
I have something to say about this, but Paul and I were talking about this, so he knows what I'm going to say. Paul, sort of, have you a thought about this?
I'm absolutely amazed that Annalise Dodds made this statement. I've been on a call before with Annalise Dodds, and she's absolutely great, and she knows her stuff. She knows her stuff really, really well. And I believe that she is very well aware of modern monetary theory. I believe that she knows that taxes and growth aren't really linked. Taxes don't pay for your stuff unless you're a county council or something. If you are the UK government, you are a currency issuer. You don't need to tax to grow. So maybe that's what she's on about. Maybe, because I didn't read the article because it's behind a paywall. So maybe that's what she's talking about. We don't need to raise taxes. We can simply invest, as Richie Sunak also seems to know, but no one will talk about it, because when it comes to the election, we'll talk about tax and spend. We've got to pay for this. Where's this? And I think one of the big things that Labour Party have got wrong over the past few years is, where's the money going to come from? And they never said that really doesn't matter. That is not how our currency works. That is not how economics works for a currency issuer. We have the pound. That is not how it works. That's what we need to be saying. There's no such thing as tax and spend. It's spend and tax. Now, I'm for a redistribution of wealth that has taxation.
Finish my point, you rotter. You stole that from me.
You do that one. I didn't do that one. No,
I was only joking.
You can tell.
Carry on. I was only joking. Please go on.
But no, it's taxes redistributed. It's you decide to tax richer people more, because at the moment we have a trickle-up economy where all the money ends up in the hands of a few and then it goes off to the Cayman Islands, and that is our entire system. Whereas we need to make sure that's not happening, and that's investing in our communities. The only thing you need to be very careful of is controlling inflation, and that can be done by a number of means. And I fully back modern monetary theory, which suggests there should be a job guarantee.
At this point, Simon, before Stuart and I give you our wonderful pearls of wisdom on this, sort of one of which at least you'll have heard before now. I mean, have you got any comments about the points already made?
It's more towards the actual statement she made herself. I have no issue with not putting taxes up in terms of it allows people to spend, it puts more money in their pockets. Again, if you talk about the top 5%, they do need to be taxed more. I mean, nobody's going to argue that. But in the same sense...
Except the top 5%, they argue that very strongly.
Yeah, well, they would, wouldn't they? It's always been the case.
I mean, just challenging you on this and sort of saying what they say, Simon, what Boris Johnson has pointed out is, in fact, that in terms of percentage, it doesn't seem that the top 5% pay very much more than us. But in fact, in terms of amount they contribute to the taxation purse, the top 5% give something like 2/3 of the tax purse. And this is why the Tories are so terrified of taxing them, because if they choose to jigger off the Monaco, sort of, we lose 2/3 of our taxes. I mean, sort of, what would your answer be to that?
So, taxes on the individual, yeah, I can argue, I can almost comprehend their point with it. The issue I have is you can't ask us as individuals of the country to pay more tax if you're not going to close tax loopholes. So we need to actually tax where it's being avoided. The avoidance needs to be dealt with first. Then you can have a reasonable conversation with the public about paying more tax. Going, look, we've got X amount from the avoidance. We still need a bit more to do the project, but they need to bring us along with those projects and have that discussion with us, saying this is where your tax is going, or you can help pick the projects that you want to be part of. I have no issue with that, but I feel if they want to have any government, if they want to have an level footing, they need to get rid of the tax avoidance and make sure everyone's even just paying the right amount of tax now for what it is.
Stuart.
Oh,
Samantha, isn't it?
Is it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Samantha?
Don't make me unleash my feminist rage. Oh dear.
Out, Simon.
There are so many things to unpack. We really need to work. We should be leading the charge on the detoxification of the idea of taxes, right? We've had successive governments who have kind of pandered to this idea that taxes are bad, people like to keep their own money, so we can't campaign on increasing taxation of any kind. And that's not sustainable, and that's not kind of Labour Party ideology. You know, you've all heard the quote, charity is a cold grey loveless thing. If a rich man wants to help the poor, he should pay his taxes gladly. Apparently that actually wasn't said by Clement Attlee. Google tells me it was said by his biographer. But why don't people want to pay taxes, apart from the fact that obviously they want to keep their own money? But is it because people don't see the result of what their taxes are paying for? So that's an argument for more universal benefits, things that everybody gets, so that your middle classes don't get left out and they're paying out money, essentially what can be painted as, and obviously this is not my opinion, some people might say I'm paying out money of my pay to pay for somebody else's lifestyle. That's the way it gets twisted, isn't it? And the other thing is something we've talked about before, which is the trust in politicians and the trust that politicians are capable of governing and managing this money in a way that provides the best result for the taxpayer. So there's so many issues tied up in this, but the short answer is no. I don't think the Labour Party should be campaigning in any way, shape or form as a "we will not raise your taxes" party. We should be campaigning to say you will pay tax and this is what it's going to pay for.
God bless you. Stuart, you haven't spoken on this topic yet.
Well, here's my thought.
Good.
If I wanted to see growth in my community, I would need to see people in my community with some more money in their pocket to spend, you know. And if we had a fairer tax system, that might, you know, actually happen.
I think my point, Simon, and before I give you the last word, has already been part iterated by Paul. And what I think we have to see is that taxation is essential for economic growth because it's a method of redistribution. And Paul mentioned at the moment what happens, there is a natural bias in the terms of trade which takes money out of the pockets of poor people and puts it into the pockets of rich people. And sort of, you know, after you've got the first 2 million a year in your pocket, you have no means of spending it. It just piles up unused. And so when you get these massive imbalances in wealth, what in fact happens is that the economy, the amount of money in the economy, the money which is sloshing around and paying people's wages and buying the things they produce, the goods and services they produce, actually you have this ridiculous thing whereby the economy appears to be growing, GDP is growing, so much of that is just piling up unused and wasted and in the Caymans, as Paul said, that the amount of money which is actually going round in fact is declining all the time. And all the time you're struggling with declining economic growth at a time when people are becoming wealthier and wealthier. And what taxation does is it takes all that piled up money and puts it back into the economy and gets the economy going, puts money in the pockets of poor people who just go out and straight. And my point about taxes is that rich people do not need to worry about taxes because they get it back the day after tomorrow anyway. And sort of because they run all the things that we spend our money on. So we need taxes. We need taxes for the good of the economy, and it's teaching people that, which is the difficult thing. Sort of, we are running slightly late. We're running 5 minutes late, Simon. But I'm going to give you the last word, and thank you so much for being with us. Sort of draw this conclusion, this discussion to a close, please.
Yeah, no problem. I'd like to focus on the last bit, just where it says must go for growth. I would like to see growth in an area that actually means something, not just GDP by a fraction of a percentage. Why not growth into newer industries? If we're going to grow, we might as well grow in the right way. That's my view on it.
Spot on, green new growth. That's music to my ears, Simon. You can come on again. Thank you very much indeed.
No
applause. Sort of, and hopefully see you another time, Simon. Thank you
definitely.
So bye now. Bye. And listeners, that's smashing. That's just exactly how I saw it working and exactly what we want to happen. Thank you so much. If you want to come on and ask a question, get in touch with me or Paul. We can arrange that and you can come on the show in the middle and we'll have that section again. But if you want something less formal, drop the question into the comments and say, can I come on? We'll bring you onto the show and you can join in that little discussion as well. So how many we'll have time for, I don't know. And we may find that guests have to leave. Right. Other stories?
Oh,
I see. Okay. Despite the brilliant drumming.
Because we can't use the Bono one.
Pardon?
We can't use the Bono one.
No, we can't use the Bono one because he'll just take more money out of our pockets and pile it up in the Cayman Islands. And there is a case for litigation that you'll have to cope with, Paul. Well, I think we're just down to one second question. So Russia escapes for the second week running. We have something much more important to do. Sam! Feminist rage, stoke it up again. Who has been sacrificed for the good of the nation?
Working mothers have been sacrificed for the good of the nation. And of course we have. And I will say, because I'm all about the solidarity, this is what it means to be marginalised and black people and other minority ethnic people and gay people and trans people. We're in a crisis. This is why everybody needs rights, because in a crisis, marginalised people get pushed to the side by the dominant culture. So it's not just us, but there has been some good statistics put together about us. Oh dear, hang on, my phone's gone to sleep, and I don't want to accidentally say any wrong statistics. The statistics are 81% of women who have been surveyed by this group, that it's almost 20,000 people surveyed. 81% of people said they needed childcare to work. 72% say they worked fewer hours because of childcare. 52% said that lack of childcare has led to negativity from the employer. 49% have had insufficient childcare in place to do their work. 33% forfeited childcare spaces due to COVID-19 because of social distancing, you could fit less kids in a childcare setting. And of those who had been or expected to be made redundant, 46% said that childcare played a role in that. And this is one of these things. It's women who are affected right now, but this is bad for our whole society to squeeze women out of the workplace. It's bad for children having their lives upended. You know, I just think as every point, you know, we just don't seem to have had women at that table to make these decisions. And like I said, we've been squeezed out at the side, you know. It's really, really frustrating for me. But I just think we could have approached this whole thing so much more imaginatively, like libraries, right? So libraries were one of the things that was closed by government order. This huge swathe of things, just government said shut down. So councils weren't able to provide library services at all, but parents were supposed to home educate their children with no resources. It's absolutely ridiculous. And now that libraries are starting to open, what we see in Durham County Council in their area is they're doing this sort of click and collect, pick and drop, whatever they call it, service, which is great. And if you think about it, there's absolutely no reason they couldn't have been doing that from the beginning for educational resources. I mean, thank you very much. It's July.
Kelly,
is
it intentional sexism from the government, do you think, or just incompetence?
I think it's incompetence which has led to some intentional sexism, shall we say. I think the entire COVID response has been very ill thought out from the very beginning. So you would have thought that have had some sort of plans in place. It became very apparent during March that they didn't have any plans in place. Now, I think what may have happened, and this is just my opinion in my own little fantasy world of role play, I think when they were deciding to lock down, etc., and when they were thinking about things like furlough and job retentions and what have you, they've sat around a table. Let's be honest, many white men have sat around a table and have gone, oh my God, what should we do? Then they've thrown out a few ideas, as Sam said, shut down the libraries, do this, do that, boom, boom, boom. They've done it without any consultation to the people who actually matter. So if they just thought, hang on a minute, why don't we bring in someone from a single parent group to give their opinion on these types of decisions that we're making? Why don't we bring in someone from wherever to have a consultation? That's the whole thing, a complete lack of consultation. And consultation didn't happen because they're intentionally sexist. Because it's a table full, like I said, of white men of a certain age. Don't mean to be offensive to any white men out there of a certain age, but let's be honest, you come with a certain reputation, some of you. You know, like me dad, I'll name him. I'm not bothered if I offend him. And they snap decisions. Oh, this'll be good, that'll be mint, that'll be hellish, whoa, let's do it. Guess what? No, it wasn't. And you didn't consult with the right people. And that's basically, I think that's been the whole government since 2010, a lack of consultation with anyone that actually matters.
I mean, I was going to say, do you think it's because they're men, or do you think it's because they just do not have a clue what life is like for ordinary people?
I think it's partly because they're men, and I think it's partly because they literally have no idea what life is like for a low working class single parent family. Literally no idea whatsoever. Not one of them has ever thought to find out what it might be like for somebody else. And yeah, I think it has been, I mean, I've no doubt one of them may have piped up at some point, shouldn't we ask the little mothers about this? And the rest of them have gone, nah, they can't make important decisions, man, they're just women, don't be daft. I've no doubt that something like that will happen. In my own little fantasy role play world, I think something like that will happen because I wouldn't pull past any of that shower. Let's be honest.
Before I ask Paul and Stuart to put their heads in the noose, and I advise you strongly to restrict your comments, sort of, Sam, do you want to explode a little further about the role of what needs to be done about this, Sam?
Well, like Kelly said, they just need to get the people around the table. And again, it's frustrating because we know how to fix this. There are groups that all they do is develop policy. They develop policy on specific themes, and they do studies, and they work out all of the minutiae to it. So there's loads of policy available that does include consultation. I would recommend the government go and look at the women's budget group, who suggest that what we need to be investing in to rebalance these scales is we need to be giving a pay rise to carers, which I think is morally the right thing to do as well. But also carers are disproportionately women who are on lower incomes. So if we give carers a pay rise, which they are due, then we help equality on its way, and it also increases GDP. If you invest in care work the same amount that you invest in construction work, you could get more growth out of the economy for doing that, because these care workers then go, like you say, money in the pocket and spend it.
As you said, though, Sam, the policies are out there, but not one of them will have thought to actually look at them.
Well, that's the thing, it's political will at the end of the day. It comes down to political ideologies, and which is just so frustrating. It's so frustrating that, you know, there are answers out there and they're choosing willfully to not look at them.
Thank you. No time, Paul and Stuart. Perhaps wisest, to be honest. Thank you, ladies. That was just fantastic, I might say. Just absolutely lovely. Straight from the heart and absolutely to the point. And that, listener, is the end of the formal part of the show. Has anybody come on to the comments? So they want to join it? And
yeah, we've got a joiner.
Who's a joiner?
We'll not do it yet. What we're going to do is we'll just we'll do some technical things. We'll play No Pass Around. We'll end the show, and then we'll have an extra time as well. And I'd also like to apologise for interrupting Stuart earlier on, because I didn't mean to.
No apology needed.
I feel terrible.
So I think you don't, because I interrupt people all the time. I mean,
it was more I interrupted you, interrupting to bring in Samantha, because Samantha kept on being not ignored and something I was on last night, and I was all like, yeah. We're
going to play out, listener, with No Pass Around, and when we come back, we're going to get our joiner, who I still don't know who it is, and anybody else, put your name in the comments you want to join us and come and ask a question.
We keep the red flag flying here.